I really thought it was going to be a lot more dramatic.
I was like, is there an intro to it? Or
No, there usually is, but I'm not going to lie. The way the camera started recording was very lame.
Oh, okay.
I thought they were going to pull out and drive by. I was not prepared
please
for that.
Please don't dump on me, like, not here.
And Barnes & Noble is crazy.
Literally.
But yeah, we're at Barnes & Noble. Last episode, we were inside the Barnes & Noble. What is going on? Last time.
God, how many people? Hold on, I forgot my windows are down. Let me chill.
I was caught off guard. Last time we were in Barnes & Noble with B Cams. Now we're out here with Z in the parking lot of Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to plug in, I typically let my guests plug in whatever they want. Go ahead and if you want to do your little introduction, that's fine.
Nah, I'm just chilling.
All right, for sure. This episode, we're going to take a little bit of a different approach. I've known him since... Dang.
Shit.
Dang.
It's been a minute.
Nah, I feel old. It happened the other day.
So we onk now.
Yeah. So too many people have kids now. I could really have kids and it'd be understood.
Yeah. Whole families, people getting married, kids, the whole nine.
Not successfully. But but yeah, today's episode is gonna be semi about men's health. I want to kind of pick your brain because, you know, you and I are the same age and kind of just your experience with mental health so far, especially as a man, for nonetheless.
Yeah.
And I guess the first thing I want to think about is like, what is your definition of men's health, or like exactly like what does that look like for you?
That's kind of a tough question, man. Like,
no answer is also an answer as well.
I was about to say, it depends on what angle you want to take at it. Do you want to look at it kind of like what it means to be a man, or just kind of growing up, like the ideals of what a man should do, or like how do you want to approach that?
I guess the way I'll think about it is this: like, let's say that actually that's actually a good point, because there's a baseline. Okay, I'll say this: the baseline for what you would deem as like men's mental health. Like, let's say you would do this, that, and the third. If your mental health was below, you would do this to get it back above, or. Even with your experience of what people tell you what mental health is supposed to look like as a man at our current age, kind of like all of the above.
Okay. So, I mean, I got my own way of handling things, but I think just kind of growing up for the perspective of what a man should have and how men's health is kind of handled. Like, I don't know about how most people grow up, but like in my house, I had military dad. A lot of my family is military or law enforcement in general. So like my dad's way of showing love and what a man should be is more strict, I guess, than what a lot of people grew up with. A lot of like, not so much not showing emotion, but like there's kind of a time for everything, right? So like, you don't just cry out in public, or just because, you know, if something hurts you or whatever, you kind of just take it on the chin and keep moving on, like push through things, don't get super emotional about things. And the funniest part about that, like growing up, I had both sides of it. I was very thankful to have both sides of it, because my mom was a very like loving and caring person. My dad was a lot more rigid. Like I watched him go through things where it's like most people would be crying in that situation, or like they'd be hurt by that situation, or like it's like, why don't you show any emotion with that? And I didn't understand it. And I can't even find myself doing things now where you're just like almost desensitized to what's going on. But it's like, I appreciated having both sides of it, because when he needed to show emotion, he showed it. But again, it kind of just goes up to his upbringing, right? Like a man should be strong. You should be a provider. You shouldn't be showing weakness. You shouldn't be showing emotion. And I think a lot of that's changing now. Like, I feel now people are a lot more emotional. They're a lot more about showing, you know, what they're feeling, getting their feelings out there, speaking on things. Growing up, like, I mean, it's changed now. I have a lot better relationship with my dad in the most recent years than what I did growing up, because growing up, like, as a kid, you just don't understand it. And it took me until my teens to understand, like, the way that he did love me. Like,
he emoted, he
cared about me. Like, whereas when I was growing up, I was like, all right, well, why? Like, my mom does one thing, you do a different thing. Like, what is going on? So like, shout out to my dad. Honestly, he has taught me a lot.
Shout out to the fathers.
Yeah, and I would definitely say it now. We were just talking about like having a family. Like, be there for your kids, man. Like, teach them things. Don't just let them live their own life. Like, be present for them. But yeah, like I said, it's kind of just now. If I had my own children, I would teach them, like, yes, have those emotions, because I will tell you that's an easy trap to fall into, is not showing emotion.
Yeah.
How that can bubble up inside of you, and you're gonna end up making a mistake. You're gonna end up doing something crazy that you shouldn't have done.
That crash out will come soon.
And everybody thinks they can hold it down, but you can only handle so much of it before it blows up. So
Yeah.
definitely talk about it. Find advice. Find somebody to talk to. If you don't have anybody to talk to, man, sit in the mirror and talk to yourself. Like, get it out.
Yeah.
And that's one of my personal things. It's like, get that emotion out. For me, it's going to the gym. Like, it's something that I wish I would have gotten into earlier. But the gym is my vice. It's like, it gets that energy out. If you're having a bad day, if you're having a good day, like, go expel that energy. Because if you just sit there and hold it in, like I said, man, it can blow up very quickly, and it'll be when you least expect it.
Yeah. That's fair. I agree with that 1,000%. Make sure y'all, he said advice, don't just do anything. Do things that actually will help you. He's going to the gym. That's going to help him.
Yeah.
There's no way the gym is not going to help him. If you start drinking or engaging in any type of substance, do not take substances as a vice.
Yes.
Don't go to the club as a vice. Try to do things that are beneficial to who you want to be and stabilizing your emotions, not pacifying them.
And I think the biggest part of that is just having a balance. Like, life is kind of all about balance.
Yeah.
If you do any drugs or any substances, whatever it may be, like, do it in moderation. Don't utilize that as a way of dealing with your pain, dealing with your emotions, stuff like that, because that's just going to lead you down a wrong path. I thankfully haven't done any drugs. Now, I mean, obviously, I guess you can consider drinking a drug, so I guess you could do that, but I haven't done anything outside of drinking. But I've seen a lot of people where they do turn to a drug or some form of substance for a way of coping with everyday life, you know? And we could just be honest, like, life sucks for a lot of people.
1,000%. Adulting is just...
And there are very few people out there who are lucky enough to be doing the things that they love on a day-to-day basis. But for the overwhelming majority, like, you're working a job you probably don't like. You're doing work that you probably don't like. You're working with people that you probably don't like.
Yeah.
And it's not to just be like a Debbie Downer, be like, oh, you know, life sucks, it's pitiful. But it's just the reality for majority of people. So
yeah, that's
what I was saying. You got to find something to release that energy. Find something that you love. Find a hobby and just kind of dig into it and really make a commitment to it. Like, that's what I did. I started 2021, I think it was, when I started going back to the gym. And I kind of grew up, like, playing sports and stuff like that. Not because I wanted to. My parents, like, another thing, again, just shout out to them, they reinforced it. Like, you may not like it, but it teaches you different things that you'll appreciate later on. And as a kid, I didn't understand, but now that it is later on in life, I definitely appreciate it. But I say all that to say, like, when I got to college, like, I didn't play any sports in college or anything. Got fat, and I was like, 2020, with the whole shutdown and everything, it's like, there's really nothing to do. Thankfully, I was still working the job that I had. But that was kind of the first time in my life where I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, yo, I don't like the way that I look. I'm not happy. Like, I need to do something. I need to focus in on something, because I'm just in the same repetitive cycle day after day after day.
Don't sulk. Definitely don't sulk. And
so I got into the gym, and like I said, I wish I would have done it sooner, because now that's the thing that I love. I hit the gym like 5 to 6 days a week. And even if you don't have a ton of energy or you don't really feel like doing it, it's just making that commitment. And that's what I did. I made a commitment to myself. I was like, all right, as long as I'm healthy enough to be in there, I'm gonna be in the gym. And I committed to it, and I've been doing it ever since. I've been going for about 4 years now, so I don't have any plans of stopping. Like I said, I don't know what it is for y'all, but find something that you can lock into and really just find a passion for something that can ease your mind with what.
And pick you up.
Yeah.
You gotta find something that lets you practice happy habits. A lot of people are stuck on being happy, and happiness is not necessarily a feeling. It's more of like a state of being.
Yeah.
You practice being happy until you achieve it, and
Yeah.
so if you think that saying that you're going to be happy, the goal is not to be happy. The goal is to practice being happy until you get there, because it doesn't stop. And life is not so fortunate that we can achieve happiness and it stays. You know, there's so many things that are constantly revolving. Things are changing. Things are constantly evolving. We're constantly losing, constantly gaining. So you just have to. You have to take life for what it is. Constantly try to practice happy habits in a healthy manner for yourself. Because if you don't, when the rough times happen, you're gonna be a sitting duck.
Yeah.
And it's just, especially for men. Oh my God.
Men are just held to
Especially for men.
a higher expectation for what. And again, like it's hard to talk about now because so many things are changing. But for a lot of people, depending on how you grew up, like being a man was just like take everything for what it is. Like you don't show emotion, don't cry, don't get depressed, but like you're human.
You
like
just move, you step,
Yeah.
you go, you pick up, you run. Like whatever it's required of you is what you raise the occasion for. And it's one of those things that, like, even at 25, I find myself like having like the instinct
Yeah.
to like do, and sometimes you just have to stop and take a step back and be like, what are we doing this for?
Yeah. And I'll touch on two things here. The first one I will say is I think now that social media has gotten to be such a huge thing, we often compare each other or compare ourselves to how other people are living. And I'm like, for me personally, like I don't got a bunch of followers on Instagram. Like the followers I have, I know just about every single person on there. I'm not a huge social media person. And part of that is just being tied up in what social media is. Having an IT degree, like I understand the behind the scenes of what social media is, and all it is just a trap to keep you coming back, pretty much. But I think a lot of people compare themselves. They see people happy on Instagram, and they're going on trips to wherever it may be, and they're driving nice cars, and they're eating well, and they're doing blah, 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 blah. And I think a lot of people think that that's everyday life for that person, and it's not. It is not. You can talk to those people outside of what you're seeing, and they may be going through the same stuff that you're going through. They may be going through worse than what you're going through.
Yeah. I'll take it a step further. Not only is it not 24 hours for them, it's also not going to be 24 hours for you.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I was like, you can't look at everything you see online and be like, oh, that's the life that person's living. I was like, no, that's 15 seconds of what you saw that person living. That's a 3-day vacation that they went on, and then they're back to the same reality that everybody else is. Like you gotta really understand that everything that you see isn't true.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, they kind of just get lost in the feed of just sitting there scrolling through, oh, this person's living a great life. This person's living a great life. Like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I not happy? Why am I not going on the trip to wherever it may be? Why am I not hitting the club and dancing with all the girls? Again, just going back for men, like it's
pacing.
Yeah.
And representation. I think that it's good to see people who look like us in social media spaces succeeding, because it shows that it's possible. But capacity and pacing and balance, like you said, is such an important thing. If you know how much you make and you know that you cannot logistically do what you see on social media, but you still want to do that deep down, like traveling, just plan out with what you have available.
Stop living outside of your means.
Yeah.
Stop trying to be the showboat for everybody. I promise you, like, as bad as it may sound, I promise you nobody cares. Like,
that's a real statement, though.
For
that's a real
for what
statement.
it is, they're going to look at you for 10 or 15 seconds and on to the next. Like, stop trying to impress everybody, because, again, nobody cares. Somebody has more than you do. Somebody's living a flashier lifestyle than you are. Post you, and that's, like, the biggest takeaway from that. Just do you. Stop trying to be somebody else, because you'll never be them.
And you'll constantly have to be them.
And it's going to eat away at you when you're not them. So that's what I'm saying. Like, live your own life. I mean, I'm not going to get super religious, but religion is something that, again, I found along the way, and that's helped me out in my life as far as my mental health. Like, start counting your blessings, man, because things can be taken from you so quickly. And it's not a comparison game, but a lot of the way, like when I get down or I get depressed or whatever it may be, it's like, I just count my blessings. Like, thank God for what you got, or thank whatever it is that you believe in for what you have, because I was like, there's some people who woke up and couldn't see out their eyes. They couldn't hear things. Like, they're taking medications just to have normal bodily functions. Like, people who woke up and, you know, their legs don't work or their arms don't work. And
everybody can get up in the morning, literally and metaphorically.
Exactly. So it's like, it's little things that we take for granted every day that it's like, that could be taken from you so quickly.
Yeah.
And you didn't even realize what you had. So it's like, you got to really count your blessings, be appreciative of what you have. And then not only that, but just kind of give thanks to, again, whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
And just be grateful for what you do have, because it could be gone so quickly.
And I think that's the part that we have to capitalize on, especially as men, is the life is what you make it. Like, once you graduate from, or whatever the task that you did to make parents proud, or whatever task you did to make somebody else happy, like, once your parents are gone and, like, your family is gone, and whoever put the pressure on you is gone and out the way, all you're stuck with is yourself. So that's all you have to make room for. That's all you have to make a life with. And I guess the way I think about it, too, in terms of mental health, is whatever your parents gave you, bro, that's all you have to make a shadow with. But it's not all you have to make a life with.
Yep.
Just, you have to be mindful about that. If you didn't grow up the best way, and you know, and you can identify that, go out your way to find what it is that you want to do. You don't have to sulk. You don't have to be your parents. And the thing about it is that you also can't run from it either.
Yeah.
Because running from it will put you right back to where you are. You have to acknowledge, accept.
Exactly. That's like the biggest part. Like, sorry to cut you off.
No, go
just
ahead.
Acknowledge, like, things are the way they are, but you have to learn from that and then do something with it. Like, when I had been through a few depressive phases in my life, and I started to realize, I was like, I'm sad because I want to be sad. Like, like, life is hard, but life is hard for everybody. And again, it could always be worse. So it's like, either you just deal with it, or you can sit there and be sad all day long. I was like, but at the end of the day, it's one of my favorite quotes that my dad said to me. And then when I first heard it, I was like, you know, that sounds kind of rude, like, but it took some time to understand it. But what he told me, he was like, nobody cares about you but you.
Yeah.
And when I first heard that, I was like, you know, of course people care about me, like that. What does that mean? But as I've gone through life and I've experienced it more and more, is like, what that quote really means is that everybody's dealing with their own shit for the most part. Like, everybody's going through something. Everybody has their own plate that they have to figure out how they're going to deal with it. Yeah. And as much as you want to sit there and be sad and cry about, you know, oh, woe is me, my life is hard, blah, 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 somebody's got it worse. Somebody else is going through it. And if all you do is pout all day long about what you're going through, you're never going to pull yourself out of that. Yeah. So you have to deal with the cards that you've been dealt, and then understand, you know, how do I get out of this situation? How do I grow out of it? And then not only say that, but take the steps to actually get out of it. Yeah. I think a lot of people do that thing where they're like, oh, I wish I had blah, 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 blah. I wish I wasn't so sad. But, you know, you sit there and you wish for it, but you never do anything to act on it. You never do anything to actually get out of it. And so
it's crazy too, because I think that a lot of times people think that numbing them is going to do it, and they think that's part of the process, but acceptance is what it is. And this is not to say that you can't, you know, go through your emotions or whatnot, but you can go through your emotions, but you don't have to live them.
Exactly. And like I was saying, it's like it's a time and a place for everything. Like, you have a time where it's like, all right, life sucks, I'm gonna be sad about it. Like, it's a very normal human emotion to have, but at some point you got to be like, all right, yeah, it sucks, but time to move on. I got to pick myself up. I got to get back at it. You know, do things that really progress you in your life. Another thing is just goal setting. Like, set some goals for yourself and actually go get them.
Figure out how to achieve them.
A lot of people will be, again, like we were talking about earlier, just trapped in the same loop of doing the same thing day after day after day, but they want so much more. I'm like, you can't do the same thing every day and expect something different
result.
That's just
insanity.
Insane. Yeah, it's insane.
You can't say that you don't like how you look, but you go to the gym once a week, or you're not moving actively enough. You can't say that you don't make enough money, but you're not moving the way that you can. And mind you, this is all within reason. Some people are stuck in certain situations where you can only do the best of what you can. But at the end of the day, if you have the free space and the time and the energy, go about it.
Exactly.
It's one day at a time. You know, tomorrow isn't promised. Do the best what you got today.
And then like I said, just manage your time. Figure out time management for yourself and find time for those things that do make you happy. Like I said, the gym. I work 10 hours a day and I still go to the gym for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like my week is completely taken. But
Yeah.
again, I make time for that because I love going to the gym. That's the one thing where I have like my peace of mind. I was like, I have people, I'm surrounded by people I like. I'm doing something I like. I was like, it takes me out of all the nuance of the normal day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
And for some people, it may be music or it may be art or playing a sport. You know, find that thing that you
Makes
really
it
like
easier.
and hone in on it. Because if you don't, like I said, you're going to do the same thing every day and drive yourself crazy.
Yeah. I think there's an analogy that I think of. It's like everybody's drowning, but find you some things that help you swim.
Yep.
So if you don't like what you do from 8 to 5, figure out what you want to do after 5 that helps you, get up so you can do 8 to 5 again. Or if there's some things that make life difficult from whatever time it may be or for whatever situation it may be, start to take baby steps. And you don't have to take the ginormous ones. Even saying, I don't know is part of acceptance. I don't know what I should do from here. That, give yourself a deep breath. Not everyone has to have it figured out, especially at 25. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the 20s are a weird time, man. There's a lot of adulting to be done by the time you hit your 20s. I know for most people, like,
They don't.
everybody thinks it starts at like 18. That's when you're an adult. I was like, dude, I wish I could go back to 18.
Yeah.
I was like, my teens, like,
The teens is
life
cool.
was bliss.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got to my 20s, I was like, man, this is for the birds right here. I want to go back.
The bills.
Yeah. I'm like,
Getting
it's
that email. Hey, it's coming up.
Yep. And another thing, just kind of keep your head up. Like I
Yeah.
said, what you're going through now is temporary.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people who are positive. And I think that's a really big one, is that if you're a negative person, like, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm the most positive person in the world,
Right.
but surround yourself with people who are positive people, who are happy people, because if you're a negative person and you surround yourself with negative people, again, you're never going to get out of that trap.
Yeah. I've learned that myself recently this year. You gotta be careful who you vent to, because vents can lead to other rooms.
And I was about to say, keep an open eye out and an open ear about what you say around people, because a lot of people will use that against you at some point in your life. Keep your circle tight if possible. Like I said, you can't speak to everybody the way that you speak to your close friends. And I feel bad when I see like people who are generally nice and they
Move with the utmost genuine attention, and then it's just met with people who are just waiting to take advantage.
And the saddest part about that is like, I see the nicest people get taken advantage of the most.
Yeah.
And it's so sad, because it's like, we need more people like that who are just willing to do anything for anybody.
Yeah. Especially at our age. I feel like in our 20s, I think that's the lack of accountability, because people are like, our 20s is to make mistakes and have fun. And I think that there's a balance. I think that when we make mistakes and have fun, we shouldn't be purposely doing it at the expense of others.
Yeah.
Because there are people out here who are moving with the utmost genuine intention, trying to do right by the people, and there are people who are waiting to make mistakes and are waiting to not take responsibility for it.
Yeah.
So you gotta stand 10 toes and be mindful.
You gotta learn from the mistakes, man.
Yeah.
There's so many people who make these mistakes and they don't learn anything from it, and they end up making it again or doing something worse. And like I said, it's just take care of people. I think like that's something that we don't really do as a generation. Like, I've watched my grandfather's generation and even my father's generation, like, they're huge family people.
Yeah.
Like, just being around family, uplifting each other. Like, it doesn't really matter what you did, be there for your people.
Yeah.
But that's something I think is lost
In
a
our
lot
age.
in our generation.
I think what is in our generation, I feel like, and this is the way I think about it, because in terms of relationships and then definitely an individual level, if it doesn't serve you, they don't.
Yeah.
It's like, if it doesn't serve you, you should throw it away.
I think we're a very selfish generation.
Always.
And I can say I'm a selfish person myself. I can admit that. Like, there's steps that I have to take to get out of that. But that's just something that I think we as a generation are just so selfish. Like, we're so self-centered. If it's not about me, it's for the birds. Like,
yeah, I'm a firm believer that people our age have to get hit with a truck to know what it's like to get hit with a truck.
exactly. Like,
And that's disappointing, because I think that
it's sad. It's like
as-
we wait for the bad thing to happen before we
Yeah.
understand the consequences of what we're doing. Like,
yeah, and sometimes it can become a slap in the face, because I'm somebody who's been in so many tough situations back to back to back, and I have enough experiences to not be a good person.
Yeah.
But that's
But it's
not
a
what
choice.
yeah, it's a choice. And so when you make a decision, like, you know how it's going to affect someone, but it also doesn't take common sense to know how it's going to affect someone.
Yeah.
All you do is think about, if it happened to you, how would you feel about it? And then you
Exactly.
go from there.
And that's a huge thing with going back to just like treating people how you want to be treated. It was like, if you treat everybody like trash, like, you can't expect people to be nice to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of people do, is like, oh, I'm gonna treat people any kind of way that I want. But the minute they say something back to me, oh, I gotta raise hell about it. Like,
Yeah.
what did you expect out of it? Like, they see that you're a horrible person. Like, why would you expect anybody to treat you right, treat you nicely?
I'm a firm believer in know their fruits. Whenever it comes to anyone, whether it's if it's a relationship, whether it's friends, whether it's people you know that cross you, know their fruits. No matter what somebody says, consistently, action will repeatedly let them check you, bro. It'll be a schedule. You can clock them on their action, because words mean nothing. And keep in mind how much the words doesn't match up to action.
Yep.
Definitely know the fruits.
And then for some of y'all, some of y'all need to start cutting some people off in your life. Like, you have toxic people around you who are constantly bringing you down. Like I said, I got a small circle. The friends that I talk to, I've had since high school, and I've made like other friends here and there outside of that. But like, you got to find your group that you really click with, that you can trust. Because a lot of people surround themselves with, again, people who will use yes men, people who will listen to your life story and take that and figure out how I can turn that against you.
Yeah.
Find out your weaknesses. People who just have the worst intentions for you, but they'll smile in your face and tell you everything that you want to hear.
You can learn from everybody, but never take advice in terms of where you want to be from people that you don't want to be in the situation for.
Yeah.
If you're religious and you're your friend that parties all the time, don't take religious advice from someone who's not in the same space as you, religiously, spiritually, mentally, physically. It defeats the purpose. How can you elevate if you're already not in the same place? And it's not to say, be selfish or ignorant to think that you know it all, but more or less, like, learn from people the right things. Everybody can't be everybody for you. And that's just, like, I feel like it comes with the territory of when you're an adult. Like, at 25, you can't think that everybody that you meet is really trying to be your friend. Like, you can't think that everybody that you come into contact with is a forever thing. But you also, the people that you already have that have shown that, don't take it for granted either.
Exactly.
You have to have a balance to it. Because I think that, for me, because of how much I've experienced in my life, there are certain people where I'm like, you know what? This is a baseline.
Yeah.
Anyone who goes above this baseline, you can keep. Anyone who goes below the baseline, you can toss. But you have to keep in mind, cherish people you already have who are doing above the bare minimum. Like, for example, the quote that you said about, like, nobody cares about you but you. You'll find people who will care about you.
Exactly.
And it won't even make a difference whether or not you focus on you or not. There are people who pour into you without you having to ask to.
And I would definitely say, like, don't drive those people away. Again, if you're a negative person and you have somebody positive around you, somebody who wants to see the best for you, don't drive those people away, because they are far and few between. Like, you got to find, again, surround yourself with people who want to see you succeed, because there are so many who want to see you fail. There are so many who would turn their back on you in a heartbeat if you do better than them. If you get that job, or like you were talking about earlier, certification, stuff like that. People who will just be jealous of everything that you have. And a lot of those people will be the same people who smile in your face and tell you everything that you want to hear. But it's like, if you surround yourself with people get people who will criticize you to your face. People who will say, I don't think you should be doing this, or you should be doing that. People who will not only criticize, but, like, you can have a conversation about that. I was like, okay, you don't like what I'm doing. Like, why do you not like what I'm doing? Like, what? And figure out what you can do to change that. Like, don't be a people pleaser. Be yourself, like I was saying earlier. But you need people who are solid around you. Like, you can't build a house on a weak foundation. And so if you try and build yourself up off of people who are not reliable, people who will talk trash behind your back, people who can't be honest with you, you're just going to fall apart. You're going to be alone. And I think that's something that a lot of people just don't realize. And take some time to do some soul searching, man. Like, figure yourself out. You can't please other people if you're not happy yourself. Like, figure out what makes you happy. Do things that make you happy. And once you get to that point where you are a happy person, now you can help out other people. But a lot of people skip that entirely, and they're trying to figure out, why am I so unhappy? Why why is everybody else living the life that I want to live, but I can't figure it out?
Or even the way that they feel. I know some people who in public are the happiest person ever, but in private are miserable. And it's just like you have to be the main foundation for yourself, but you also can't pacify yourself. You have to be sick of it. You have to wage war. You know, if you're in a rough spot, you're depressed or you're unhappy, like you have to wage war against yourself. You can't be like, dang, why am I so sad? Because at some point I'm going to assume you don't want to be.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that and like really strive for what you want to do in a healthy manner. You don't have to like fake it till you make it in terms of like telling people your business, like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but in actuality you're struggling. But more or less just go about it authentically.
And I find a lot of the times it is the people who will brag about their life that are probably the most unhappy people out there.
Yeah.
Oh, I just bought a new car. I'm doing blah, 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 blah. Or I just got this. I just got that. And again, I'm like, for me personally, I'm like, cool. I don't care. Like, unless I genuinely know you, like, people who flaunt things, it means nothing to me because, again, at the end of the day, a lot of the times that's not who that person is.
Yeah.
It's not what they're about. I was like, again, everybody has stuff that they go through, so you have to be able to navigate yourself through what's actually happening in that person's life. And people who are willing to be vulnerable with you are usually your most solid people, like someone who's not just sitting there pouting about their life, but they genuinely sit down and like, hey, I'm going through this and this, you know, offer them some advice or some help, you know, something that has gotten you through your tough times, like and just, like I said, be there for people because there's so many people out there who feel all alone when they're genuinely not. But it's because nobody ever says like, yo, I'm here for you if you need something. Like,
too many people glorify happy advice.
And like I said, life sucks, dude. Like it
and
just
we all
does.
know, and that's the crazy part. Collectively, we all know.
I was like, I'm the same way that I'm talking to you now. I would talk to anybody else behind closed doors. Like, I don't walk around with a big smile on my face. If I'm not happy, I'm not happy. If I am happy, I'll have a smile on my face. Like,
if I feel some type of way, then I feel some type of way.
Exactly. And I'm a person who's very like bad at hiding emotion. Like if I'm mad about something,
I actually suck at it now.
I'm like, but again, it just goes back to understanding yourself. I'm not gonna sit here and put on a mask and act like I'm the most happy person in the world. I'm just gonna walk around, smile and giggle with everybody because that's not who I am.
You're right.
So it's like you have to again do your soul searching and figure out who am I as a person. If you are a happy-go-lucky person, like all the more power to you. I wish I had it. For example, my granddad, he's one of those people who's nice to everybody, willing to give the shirt off his back to anybody. Like,
that's how my grandfather is.
And do things for people. But again, I also see people who take advantage of that. And it makes me sick because I'm like, me personally, I'm not giving you my shirt if I don't know who you are. But it's like there's so many people out there who are willing to do that. And they just get taken advantage of for no reason. And a big part of it is just like standing up for yourself, I would say. Like, don't let people step on you.
Yeah, you have to have enough respect for yourself. And that's something that I used to battle a lot because I used to always be the type of person where it's like, I feel like I always blurred the line between standing up for yourself and like doing too much. Like if it bothered my peace, I'd be like, you know what, God will get them. I'm gonna move on. But you really do have to stand up for yourself.
You're a better person than I am.
You have to really let people know, like, even Jesus was kind. He wasn't nice, he was kind. If you stepped wrong, he stood up for himself. He definitely told you where you went wrong, but he also still went about his business. He didn't do too much. He did just about the right stuff. He respected you and himself, and you have to do the same thing. If someone crosses you and you care about that person, you have a conversation, you don't have to call them out, but you say, hey, this is what bothers me. And then from that point onwards, how they respond to that is how you maneuver, and that's how you respect yourself.
Yep. And that's what I said. I was like, you're a better person than I am, because if somebody had, ticked me off that day or said something to me that they're coming at me sideways, I was like, I typically always had something to say right back. Most people are going to try you in that way too. Like,
I think that's why, because I think I have so much experiences of people who try me, and it's like... Yeah.
And I'm like, for me personally, I'm a people watcher. So like, back in school, I was like, I watched everything.
I love observing.
And I'm like, you'll find out a lot about people if you keep your mouth shut and just watch what they do. Just watch how they act. Even your own friends, I'm like, watch how they act around other people. And then you can start to really assess and evaluate, all right, is this somebody that I should have around me because they're talking about so-and-so behind their back, but they wouldn't dare say it to their face.
Right. And I have photographic memory, which makes it an issue because I despise when people lie.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest
things. Memory about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, even when it comes to text messages, like if someone lies to me, and in my head, I have the date and the message in my head. So I just search up the keyword, and I'm just looking at my phone. I'm just like, wow, we're lying today.
And it's like, so a lot of people are bad at lying too, which is why I don't like lying.
And be careful about people who are good at lying. People who say that they're good at lying, it's a beige flag.
Don't have snakes in the garden, man.
It's
Do
a beige
not have
flag.
snakes in the garden.
There's a big difference between having snakes in the garden and being a warrior in the garden. A warrior in the garden means that you're ready for whatever. A snake in the garden means that I'm ready to bite whoever.
And again, it's like why I have such a small circle, because I have a super low tolerance for people's bullshit. It's one thing if you're going through something, you need help. It's another thing if you're trying to, again, just put on a mask and you just want all the attention. Like I hate people who just flaunt everything that they have because it's not real, it's not genuine. And again, going back to having liars, like people who will say anything that you want to hear but do something completely different. Like what I was saying about just watching people, I was like, people will say one thing and do something completely different.
Yep.
And I'm like, all it takes is just a little bit of time. Just sit there and watch how they move. Do they interact with you the same way they interact with other people? Are they talking about so-and-so behind their back, but like we were saying, they wouldn't say anything to their face? I was like, people like that, you got to shy away from. Just kind of filter them out, because those are not solid people to have around you.
Yeah, but and give grace too. You can assume that the people that you have around you that's going to stay, you're going to have conflict, you're going to have arguments, disagreements. You'll have disagreements with yourself even, conflict with yourself, but you have to give grace. Not everybody is going to perfectly fit into what your life is supposed to be. And I would
argue that nobody is going to do that.
Yeah, like nobody cares about you but you. It remains true because no one's going to perfectly fit like a puzzle piece into your life unless it's a spouse. And even then, that's co-creation. You still would have to build that anyway. So it's like, you still stuck with you. Yeah, real close.
I was in there watching that too. I was like, yo, if you hit my car, I'm about to lose it. But no, like, especially, I think just having a spouse too is like, that's a whole nother can of worms to open, because you'll let a lot of stuff slide for a spouse or somebody that you're in a relationship with.
There is a gray area, I think, for it.
Yeah.
I think it's a gray area between, because I think that it's understood, and we're talking about, like, respectfully, I'm talking about a spouse, somebody that you can't, there's nobody else for you in that moment, and that's the person you're stuck with. Of course, the grace that you give is going to supersede the grace you give everybody else, but understand the accountability and responsibility has to be just as much.
Yeah.
You have to be able to do both. I think too many people think it's supposed to be fairy tales and whatnot, and it's not. Like there
needs to be boundaries set.
Yeah.
And again, that's something that you need to sit down with that person and have that conversation. And really, like, before you start getting yourself into those situations, like we were saying, a lot of people our age now are getting married or they're having kids, stuff like that. I was like, you need to sit down with that significant other and
figure out where you're going.
Yeah, and figure out, like, what's your trauma? What issues do you go through? Like, what am I getting myself into? What makes you happy? What are the good things about you? Like, talk about it all before you make that kind of commitment, because a lot of people jump into it because they're in that, like, whole fairy tale state. Phase. Yeah, they're seeing all the best parts of somebody, but I was like, that all goes away eventually.
It's crazy because I don't know if it's because I'm 25 now or my experiences, I don't even have like the honeymoon phase anymore.
Well, again, like for me personally, I feel like I'm kind of a different situation for most people. Again, I'm just desensitized to a lot of it. Like, I just see right past
it. That's what it is.
And I'm like, because I've dealt with the honeymoon phase, because I've dealt with everything's great until it's not. I'm like, all right, tell me what I'm getting myself into. I was like, we can still have great times, but we'll have a whole lot better times if I know.
If I figure out what's wrong with you.
I'm like, if you got some baggage or you got some trauma or something, I'm like, tell me. I was like, I'm not going to go out there and spread it. It'll still be between you and I, but I need to know what's up before I get into a situation where I think everything's going great and it's not.
Like, communication is so important, and awareness in that is so important. And this is what I will say too. If y'all are involved with someone who doesn't know what their traumas are, allow them to say, I don't know, and allow you guys to create that safe space to be like, let's try to identify.
Yeah.
And it's still, majority of the work falls on them because it's their stuff, but you're there as support, not as foundation.
And I would say consistently like reassess that too. Like have those conversations often because again, anything can happen at any time. So they may go through something traumatic and they may keep quiet about it and you'll start to notice like a change in how they act and you're like, yo, what's going on? Like, and a lot of people that like we were just talking about with communication, a lot of people won't talk about it because they feel vulnerable if they talk about things like that, or they feel...
I know too many people in terms of vulnerability, they bite.
Yeah, or they feel that maybe
your dog is gonna bite.
You're invading on their space or something like that. But again, for somebody that you are truly trying to build a life with or build some type of deeper relationship,
it's just not an excuse.
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of it too. And people don't realize that that's like, they always treat it like it's a sword, but it's really a shield as well, because it's like you have one person that. Everybody driving a little close to the car.
I'm telling you, man.
Hey, people in Fredericksburg don't know how to drive.
Hey, yo. They don't know how to back up. It was like, you don't need a football field to back up.
Yeah, especially in the Tesla is crazy. That's a skill issue.
I was like, I know that John was beeping the whole time you were backing up.
There's no way. He probably has hearing issues. But to the point of like, when you're with somebody, you have to understand they're an extension of yourself. And I say that as 25 because a lot of people are still trying to dumb through playing hard to get or playing like heavy on, I'm going to do what I want because that's what everyone else are doing. Like, stop recreating cycles for people to heal from.
Yeah.
If somebody hurts you, let it stop there. It's the same thing for parents. If your parents hurt you, let it stop there.
Yep.
Whatever is making you who you are or whatever hardened you the way you did, let it stop there and try to go forward in terms of who do I want to be and who would I be proud of. Because the second that you're not proud of who you are, you're at a really bad place.
Yep. And that just goes back to, again, reevaluating yourself. If you're having a bunch of failed relationships, I wonder why.
That's a real thing. That's a real thing.
And if you don't take the time to sit there and reevaluate, okay, what went wrong? Was it them or was it me? Sometimes it is them, but a lot of the times there's a common denominator between all the failed relationships.
Yeah, you can be a victim and the perpetrator.
Exactly. And it's like, you have to understand, and then not only that, but take time to heal and figure yourself out. For me, for example, I haven't had a girlfriend in some time, man, because there's things that I needed to figure out in my life where it's like, again, I can't love somebody if I don't love myself. I can't take care of somebody if I'm not taking care of myself.
Yeah, 1,000%.
So I needed to do the things that I needed to do to set myself up for success. And once I get my own baggage filled out and handled, it's like, okay, now I can hop back into the pool and, figure out what I want to do and what kind of person I would want to be around.
Yeah.
And I think, again, there's a lot of people out there who don't even know what type of person they're attracted to. They just see something and like, yeah, I want that because
you really have
that
to
chick's
identify.
got the fat ass or she's got the nice hair or the pretty eyes or whatever. It's like, but you wouldn't be able to handle some of the things that person may bring to the table.
You gotta be really careful about what your type is.
Yeah.
Because definitely I think about that a lot when you have to figure out what you're attracted. Because I think that a lot of times people think you have to be healed, or it's like anybody should be able to heal you, and it's not like that.
Yeah.
You'll never be a finished product, but if you are consistently bleeding on others, then you have to stop bleeding on others and tap what you got going on.
Once if you can't heal your own wounds, nobody else is going to do that for you.
Yeah. Other people can put Band-Aids that can help you with Neosporin, but if the core wound is busted and you keep bleeding on other people, that's the time to take a step back.
Exactly, and like I said, it takes time for that reflection. Like, you may be single for a while, you may be dealing with things for a while, but again, are you actually trying to work through that, or are you just sitting there loathing and self-pity, waiting for somebody to come swoop you up off your feet and save you?
Nobody's going to save you at all. I can tell you that first and foremost, nobody's going to save you at all.
And a lot of people won't care to save you. They can see you struggling. They won't say a thing about it.
Never assume that somebody's coming to save you. Never assume that you have a way out.
Yep.
Just assume by proxy that you are the way out. But also keep in mind, if you have community, this is a different conversation. If you have community, then you know that there are people who are going to support you and assist you. It's just, you got to be careful. And I think that at 25, I will say, being 25, it's hard. It's a hard, slippery slope. People are expecting you to have the job together that you already want. People are expecting you to have the money that you already want to make. People are expecting you to have the type of mindset, emotional intelligence, all the work and healing already done. But not anybody is doing it from a selfless perspective. Everybody wants the chips, but no one wants to play the game.
I would say, and even just going back to being a man, it's hard for you. And don't get me wrong, I was like, it's definitely hard for the females too, but as a man, like especially a younger man, like you are held to such a high expectation. If you have like parents who cared about you, stuff like that, like, all right, you're supposed to go out there and find a job. You're supposed to be not only just having a job, but one that pays well, one that you can progress and make a career out of it. Mm-hmm. Typically, like the way that I grew up, the man is the provider of the house. Like you need to be taking care of whoever it is that you may be. And a lot of that stuff is just changing now. Like a lot of the times the woman may be the breadwinner. Like how do you deal with that in a situation where your girl is making more money than you are, but you grew up your whole life having the expectation that I'm supposed to be the one making more, I'm supposed to be the one to provide for it.
And you adjust and you navigate. And I think that's the beauty of relationships is that like when you're with the wrong person, that will matter.
Yeah.
And when you're with the right person, it's co-creation. When you're with the right person, no matter who makes more or who makes what, you're already putting into plan a motion of how you're still going to navigate. Future is still going to happen with you guys as a team. And I'm a firm believer in if one of you loses, you both lose.
Yep. And I think that's a huge point to hit. It was like, you shouldn't be playing a comparison game with your partner. I was like, y'all should be a team. Like me personally, I wouldn't care if I end up getting a girl if she makes more than me. I don't care about that. I was like, I'm still gonna take her out places. Like we're still a team. We're still gonna do things together. I'm gonna still pay for blah blah blah. She may pay for blah blah blah. Whatever it may be. But like y'all should rise and fall together. It shouldn't like y'all's connection shouldn't be a one-way street.
Yeah. And
a lot of people have relationships that are one-way streets. Like, oh, I'm giving all the love to this person. I feel like I get nothing back. All right, well, do you think you should really be with that person? Yeah, well, I've been with them for, X amount of years, and we've been through so much. I was like, again, that doesn't matter. Like, so many things change. And if y'all never reevaluate, if y'all don't ever sit down and have that conversation, if y'all don't ever connect anywhere,
because it's
sorry to say, but you probably need to get rid of them. Like,
if you can't sit down and at least talk about discrepancies happening, you're in a really bad place. And I think a lot of people forget that relationships they're not pretty. Like,
no, they're not.
And it's not to say they're supposed to be toxic at all.
No,
that's not what we're saying at all.
Not.
But they're not supposed to be toxic, but they're also not supposed to be unrealistic. They're supposed to be real. They're supposed to be whatever you are right now. Like whoever. This is the second time that I'm backed up.
Oh no, this is the third one.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
That's insane. But the way that you treat relationships is who you are. That's who you're gonna be till you die, and the same thing for them. And you just have to find out who's really worth navigating for the rest of your life, and don't take anything for granted. If you find someone that checks off 90% of your boxes, and you're concerned about 10%, reevaluate yourself more than you reevaluate them, because you're never gonna get 100% of what you want at any given point in time. Even people can change, especially if you're looking for love at 25. Not many of us have it figured out. So even who you find at 25, at 30, they could be a completely different person. At 35, they could be a completely different person.
Understand that person will change.
Yeah.
I was like, especially at the age that we're at.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, and the sad part about that is that even out into like the 30s, like people still don't have their life figured out.
Yeah.
And again, it's do they want to figure out their life?
Yeah.
For some people, they don't want to figure it out. They kind of just want to ride the wave and, have the high of being with somebody who cares about you and loves you. But once things go south, then they just leave. And then it's on to the next. Yeah. It's like it. And I think, at least for my 20s, like the way I see it, my 20s are just going to be a sacrifice for setting myself up for later on in life. Like, I'm doing the things now to set myself up so by the time I'm making more money, I got more that I can put in my pocket. I'm figuring out my life, so by the time I find somebody who's worth being with, I can sink in and be with that person and really build with them. And I think a lot of people try to live life too quickly. Like they want so many things now, but they just don't even know who they are, and they truly don't even know what they want.
Yeah.
But they're trying to live a life as if they do.
Yeah, and just be accepting of yourself. If you get in a relationship, you don't know who you are, set the boundary up and say, hey, we're figuring each other out. That's just something that comes with the territory. And I understand it's going to be an evolving process. Have patience and grace. Yeah. But above all else, you know, it's so easy, I think, at our age to be like, you know what, there'll always be other fish in the sea.
Yeah.
And I feel like the illusion of options, and let me hold my men accountable because I can't do the women because I'm not a woman. Let me hold my men accountable. Just because you find somebody prettier than what you have does not mean you should go for it. Because there will always be something better than what you have in terms of they could be prettier, they could be smarter, they could not argue with you for the 2 months that you just met somebody. You will never have a time period where it's like, I think I can trade this in and get a newer car.
Exactly.
But you don't, because it's the same thing for you. You know, it's treat women how you want to be treated. They're not objects. They're not something to like wait for you to come home and you sit on the couch.
They're not a piece of meat, bro. Like it's a human. I was like, and again, you got to take care of them. And even just how you were just talking about cars, it's like you can trade in a new car, and a lot of people even do that with each other. Like they'll be with somebody for a few years and they're like, oh, this isn't, what I want. I'll trade up to somebody else. It doesn't feel
the same. I don't have the butterflies the same way.
But I'm trying to be like an antique car. Like 20, 30, 40 years down the line, you still look at that person and you're like, yo,
and you take care
that car is beautiful. Like I've been taking care of it for I don't know how many decades. Like that's something that you'll always have an appreciation for, that if you ever lost it, like you'd be hurt. You'd be feeling some type of way.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that a lot of people, they just don't search for that anymore. They don't look for somebody who they can really...
I think everyone wants a sports car instead of the
I was like, it's nice and it's flashy, but once that thing breaks, it costs a whole lot of money to get it fixed. I'm like...
1,000%. It's a hole in your pocket.
And a lot of y'all can't afford to fix it. Like, just to be straight up.
And stop asking for sports cars if you can't make the car payment.
Exactly. Like, stop, again, just goes back to living outside of your means. Stop having these expectations for people that you can't even do yourself. Stop saying, oh, I want somebody who makes $100,000, but you only bring home 50. Like what? You can't have these Of course, you can have wants and things that would be nice, but if you don't bring anything to the table yourself, stop asking for other people to bring that to the table.
It's very weird, the table conversation that I see in social media spaces, because it's not a conversation you have with somebody you want to build a life with.
Yeah.
You can say like, okay, well, you can say, what do you want for yourself? And you can be like, okay, this is what I want. How can we let this be in alignment? But it's really different to make someone perform to qualify for what you want to do with them. It's very weird. People are not tricks. They're not circuses. You don't have to perform to be like, oh, this is what I've done with my whole life. This is why I should be here.
Yep.
You just allow people to be who they are, and you just go from there.
Yep.
It comes with the territory. And I think for all my men, oh my God, please figure out who you are outside of having a helpmate, outside of having a woman, outside of having the job. Like, do not seek things for the result. Seek things for what you want. Do not try to make a certain amount of money because you think that that's what's going to attract the type of woman that you want. Do not do things looking for the reward at the end of the tunnel. Do things because that's who you are. Because let's say that woman doesn't show up. You still have to deal with it. You still have to do it. And if you have a hard time upholding your lifestyle, it's probably not who you are.
Exactly. And that's one thing that I thank my dad for, because I got to see both sides of the financial situation. My mom likes to spend my money and my dad doesn't. And I've fallen on my dad's side where it's like I like to save my money. I don't really like buy gifts for myself and stuff like that because I don't really see...
I can't relate.
No, that's what I'm saying. But that's how I'm different. I was like, I hate spending my own money. Just I like watching my numbers grow.
Yeah.
I was like, but some people will spend that money and they don't even have the money to spend in the first place.
Yeah,
now, if there's something I genuinely want...
That's a fair assessment.
If there's something I genuinely want, I'm going to go get it. Like, believe me, I'm going to go get it. But I also make those sacrifices so that my life could be easier. For example, this car. I paid this car off. Like, I saved every check that I had before I moved out so that by the time I got out by myself and I was really getting hit with bills and insurance and rent and everything else, this wasn't something else I had to sit there and think about. I was like, this was already done and paid off.
Yeah. Work smarter, not harder. It definitely, like you said, you hit on the nail. Like, just keep your head down and work.
Yeah.
You know, and constantly look in the mirror every day. Every day. And even if you can't do it every day, like, commit yourself to at least getting up.
Yeah.
The gratefulness, the mindfulness that comes to a part of it. Because as soon as, I kid you not, as someone who's been a content creator since, like, damn, how long have I done content for? Since, like, we were on Twitch, we did Rainbow Six.
Yeah, that was all
That's like freshman.
That was like, early high school, like 9th grade.
That's crazy. But you just, and I've learned it from doing content. If you are not showcasing who you are and allowing the content to make you who you are, you will be miserable.
Yep.
And that goes for insert any job, insert anything that you practice, whether it's spending money, whether it's going shopping, whether it's working, whether it's insert whatever it is that you think is going to put you on a pedestal, get off of it.
Yep. And I'll even find with like setting some goals, and it kind of just being human will always want more. A lot of the times you'll get to that goal and it's not what you thought it would be.
Yeah.
And so what you have to do is either you got to reevaluate. It's like, all right, am I going to set myself another goal, something that I think is more achievable, or am I just going to be like, I hit my goal, I'm done now. And for me, I constantly goal set. I'm like, okay, I did something, on to the next, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy that I hit that goal and I'm proud of it, but I don't just stop there. Like, you have to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to be trapped in that cycle of doing the same thing day after day after day.
Expecting a different result, and ain't nothing going to change.
Exactly. And mentally, like, for me, it's mentally draining to be stuck in that cycle and have the same monotonous path day after day after day.
Yeah.
But for some people, they're okay with that because there's security in it. Like, if you're comfortable doing the same thing every day, I know how to do it. Then if that's what makes you happy, then do that thing. For me, I don't see any value with that because it's like I'll never improve. I'll never be able to make anything out of it if I do the same stuff every single day.
And if you find that job that you don't like, let it be a means to an end. If you say, you know what, I hate my job, but this is doing something for you, keep your head down and then facilitate with what you're missing. Like for me, as soon as I get off the clock, I just bought this camera. As soon as I get off the clock, I'm on my clips, I'm on my podcast, I'm on the content, I'm painting, I'm doing whatever. I'm doing things that I actually love. So if you have a rough day, your day doesn't end when you get off the clock.
Yes. I would say that, like, don't let your days end on a bad note, if possible. Like, do everything that you can to have a positive ending to your day because that will feed into your next day.
Yeah.
If you end your day on the bad note or, you feel like there's unfinished business for things, like that's just going to eat into the following day. And again, it's such an easy cycle to get trapped in. It's like, oh, I was miserable last night, so I'm going to wake up miserable. Or I was mad or sad last night, so I'm going to wake up mad or sad. And then it's just the same thing's going to happen day after day after day until you recognize what you're doing and you're able to break out of that cycle onto the next thing. So.
Yeah, and it's just... it's just like, I'm trying to think about like other things that I can think of that really... What's the one thing, like if you had to pick one...
Okay.
Like pick one, like quote, little mindset, belief, like lifestyle... like whatever it may be, what's one thing that like above all else just helped you like just keep going?
Have faith in something. Like for me, again, not to be religious, for me it's God. I am a Christian. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm the perfect Christian. Oh, I read the Bible every day and I live a perfect life and everybody's my friend, because I'm not. Again, like that's not realistic. You're human, you've been given free will, like figure it out. But for me, I was never more lost in my life than when I tried to live my life my way. I had never made more mistakes in my life than when I was trying to figure things out by myself. And it took that breaking point for me to just be like, yo, I'm done. I'm like, I'm done living this kind of life. Like, I gotta find something needs to change. And like I said, for me, it was just a simple prayer. I was like, yo, speak to whatever it is that you believe in. Again, for me, it's God. I sat down, I just had that conversation. I was like, yo, if you can hear me change something in my life, man, please, because I'm miserable right now. Like, I've tried doing things my own way and it's not working out.
Yeah.
And again, that saved me. 2023 was the worst and the best year of my life.
Oh.
Like, it started out as the worst year of my life and ended with me, getting a job and finally making a little bit of money and crawling myself out of those positions that I had put myself in.
Oh, he's bold. He's still going
hit
too. Ain't it like a little check,
I was about to say, I was like, hit it. I will have whatever car I want. Hit it.
Ain't it like a little check, I can do I'll Yelp a little bit.
So I might be up on Instagram showing off a Lamborghini or something.
Yeah, if I get, he's doing it again. That's crazy.
But no, yeah, like I said, just having faith in something. Like rooting yourself in something that that you can, plant the seed and grow something out of.
No, I had no question at all. So just so y'all know, for the podcast, my camera died and we back. I'm probably just gonna clip them together. I'm not gonna edit it. Respectfully, I'm gonna keep it raw. Pause.
We back. All right. So what would you say for you? Like, what's one thing that you would take as your life quote, or a piece of advice that you would give to somebody else who may be lost or something like that?
I don't know if it's a quote. I'm trying to think. Like the number.
It could be
one thing.
a life trait, or something that you like, an ideal that you follow, or something that you would give as advice to somebody else to help them out if they feel like they don't know what they're doing with their life.
As somebody who's always been, my personality has always been me. Like, I'll walk into Barnes & Noble, like, I'm wearing slides with socks, but, like, I promise you, give me another day, I would wear slides with no socks. I'll walk outside barefoot. I'll walk outside in shorts. Sometimes I may not match if I ain't feel like dressing up. Like, just be yourself.
Stop trying to please everybody.
Yeah, just be yourself. That's all you're stuck with. When you're at home,
Exactly.
as much as you can scroll, you're still stuck with that. That's all you're stuck with. And I guess another thing I think about is there's something that somebody told me, and it helps when it comes to when you're in certain situations where your back's against the wall. It's that somebody will always have it worse.
Yep.
But also, you can always use this opportunity to do your best.
Yep.
So when it comes to hard times, be mindful that it is a hard time, but also be mindful that, like, you don't have to stay there.
Yep.
And then you can keep pushing. And if you don't have any energy to keep pushing, you take a breath, you stop, figure out how to regroup, and you tackle it again. That's what it is. Failure is always an option.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with failing. Failure is always an option, as long as it's a lesson.
And that's what I was just about to say. I was like, but do you learn from that failure, or do you just sit there and wallow in the fact that you failed?
Yeah.
And if you wallow in it, then you'll never improve. But if you
Yeah.
learn from it and figure out how you don't get yourself in that situation the next time, or at least having the knowledge of how to get out if you end up getting stuck again, I was like, that's the main takeaway from it. Like, you need to learn from the things that happen to you, or the situations that you put yourself into.
1,000%. With that being said, we're going to cut the podcast here for my camera dies a second time and plays with me. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, man. Just, watch the video, share, like it up, comment on it. That's a big thing, man. Just give feedback.
Yeah.
Especially for new podcasts or new anything that's up and coming, just give feedback.
Even if y'all want to tell me it's trash, like, I might cry a little bit, but, like, if it's the truth, it's the truth.
Tell them, oh, this episode was too long and too boring. Y'all have a boring voice and I ain't talking about nothing. But, get that information out there. Share your experience in the comments, and, man, get out there and try something new, too.
1,000%. And there's nothing like, when I pick up this camera, it's not just me who picks up this camera. It's for people who have always thought about doing this and they never wanted to.
Take the step.
It's for anything, I want to make sure that I can be an example of taking a step, even if it doesn't look perfect. Like, my editing's going to be butt cheeks probably. The quality might not be the greatest. It won't be as cinematic, but at least you'll see the process, and I'm still doing it.
Yep.
If you never start, you'll never finish.
Nope.
So
that's what I said. Take those first steps. Stop saying, I wish I could do blah, 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 and actually go do it.
Yeah. And just
you might fail, you might succeed, you never know, but you'll never find out until you try.
Yeah. And then, that's what it is. We're all in different seasons. Shout out to the podcast. I'm going to try to do the YouTube closeout. Watch this.
All right.
It didn't work.